Yeah, seems nobody's around there yet, so I'll wait a little while. In the meantime, I'll check whether anyone is posting anything.
Hi, Daniel.
Hello?
Hello, Daniel. Can you hear me?
You never really know what that's going to happen. But yeah, we can start right away. If you have any specific thoughts, questions, comments, ideas, or did you come mainly to listen?
Yes, mainly just to sort of find out how far you got and things like this, and I was curious to learn more about it. I need to get your documents open now.
Okay, have you had a look at the documents so far?
Where would be a good place to find the links?
Well, the Hangout links to the wiki page, and the wiki page has links to everything else. Let me see whether I can paste this into the Hangout chat as well. So I've used the page.
How come you're working so late? Is this because people from America are coming on board?
Yeah, well, a number of people indicated they would come, but it's always, yeah, you never know. So for the last Hangout, I was also basically alone with one. which was good because it was a productive conversation. It was not really what I had intended it to be. And yeah, I'm open to however this turns out. So in the last one, we actually discussed the structure of the work packages at some detail, and most of what we've discussed is now actually implemented in the current structure, which is undergoing reconstruction anyway again. Yeah, but there were a number of good thoughts that were valuable, useful.
I think.
At the initial hangout, you said that you would be interested in kind of exploring Wikidata in the context of the botanical garden. Did you give some further thought to that? Like, where would you see the intersection? I can imagine a number of ways in which there could be interaction, but maybe you've had some specific thoughts already.
No, it's mainly what you would expect. I mean, the herbarium specimens, but also things like collector biographies, particularly, which is
Yeah.
something that would be connected to a lot of different botanical gardens, for instance. So, for instance, not the herbarium specimen details a vast amount of data that most people won't use much of. But things like collector biographies is actually quite useful, and you can connect all the specimens from that particular collector together and use those data to do the validation, things like that. So,
yeah, like if we had such a biography for a collector at the level of detail that you would need, what would that entail? Would it entail that we have like mentions of all the trips? Like he was in Brazil in 1871, and we have this specimen that looks like collected by him, but it's not specific from Brazil in 1871. This kind of thing.
yeah, I mean, at the very minimal level, it's when they born, died, when their active period was. But in their ideally, it gives you some locations of where they were, and so I'm just trying to think. So if it was curated, then you'd probably have it supported by specimens, but giving some idea of um, sort of itineraries of where they went, people they collected with, the species or the families maybe that they were interested in. Because some people collected everything, some people collected very specific things. I mean, it's one of those things that's as big as you want, really, but it's very, very useful stuff if you've got material in our European herbarium. If you've got these collectors scattered across all these different herbaria, that everyone sort of works from the same hymn sheet in terms of validating their collections regarding collectors.
Okay.
At the moment, we all keep our own collected data, and I'm sure it doesn't match each other, and there's we all duplicate each other's work. So
you could actually pick one of your favorite collectors and check what the Wikidata entry says about them, and then discuss the properties that are missing in order to express what you would need.
So how would I do that? Because I wouldn't even know how to start querying Wikidata.
You go to Wikidata and search for the name of the person that you have in mind.
Okay.
And hopefully there is an entry already. It's probably not very comprehensively annotated. But I see that we have been joined by Paolo. So Paolo, feel free to join the conversation anytime.
I'm just listening. I'm working from home, and my son is around. A lot of noise here, so I'm just follow around.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
No problem.
Well, I see that I was looking up a guy called Jean-Louis, who was a famous collector in the Congo, but I don't think he's at all in Wikidata. Well, there's too many Jean-Louis to be honest.
Yeah, well,
not a good example.
Jean-Luigi?
Jean-Louis.
Yeah, maybe.
Louis. I could probably find a better example.
French biologist, Jean-Louis Armand de Quatrefages.
I'm not sure. I'm going to try and find someone more suitable who could have a less ambiguous name.
A broader question that I'm interested in right now for writing the proposal is actually as to whether it would be useful for an institution like the Botanical Garden, or even for the community of Botanical Gardens as a whole, to have their own Wikibase instance that could then be kind of plugged into Wikidata or synced with Wikidata, but it would have more detail. It would have specimen level details, and like many of the details that you probably have in mind for your collectors, which may be too specific for Wikidata in its current shape, although I would like to see it actually all in Wikidata in the long run.
Possibly.
Do you have an opinion on that?
I mean, at the moment, I mean, our biggest problem with IT at the moment is we've got so few people in IT that putting a new system in place would just cause problems, to be honest.
Yeah. That's a good thing about Wikidata, it already runs.
Yes, it's true. But is it easy to maintain when you've already got another database to maintain? So,
well, then it boils down to automating workflows. That's something we're really interested in. We certainly don't want you to create the same thing twice. We want to have established workflows that can pick it up if you've created that thing in one place and then just notify the other. And if this is all well interconnected, it basically doesn't matter that much where you did the change, although you could envision some hierarchy in terms of trusted sources or something like that.
Yeah, a big problem is that the scientists want all their data to be in one place at one time, where they can just extract it and do whatever they will with it, and then the technicians who have to do a lot of the data entry are going to we're going to have one place that gives them very easy access to dump all that data in the first place. So I find it hard to imagine how we'd fit that into the workflow, to be honest. But I'm not to say it couldn't, and it would be a good idea. And just don't want to put a dampener on. It sounds quite tricky.
In the meantime, I've found a French botanist that has at least a Wikidata entry called André Michaud. Does this ring a bell with you?
No, but I found another one called Paul-Henri Anquier.
Can you just paste in the Wikidata link, as I just did? For those watching the stream who probably can't see the chat, the Wikidata ID is Q521848.
I haven't really had problems finding my way around Google, to be honest. I can't find where you are, mate. Maybe I'm here. No.
Well, what's the QID of that item? If you have the...
Yeah, okay. It's Q947859. 947859. We'll try and paste it in if I can only find my way back to the Hangout.
To me, that is a research proposal. That is not...
Sorry?
That is not botanist. To me, that is research proposal. Q947859 is the...
ID for research. It's not a botanist.
Why is it? Oh, am I looking at the wrong thing? Okay, maybe I am. Where? Okay. 60, 67, 6067, 191. Sorry, they just look very similar. 60, 67.
Okay, yeah, I got it. Okay, let's see. He's annotated with, well, botanist, okay. We have the author abbreviation, sex, gender, it's helpful. He had the occupation of being a botanist, and he has a given name, Paul. Okay, that's probably not very useful for the kind of use cases that you have in mind. But then question would be, what else would you like to add? So probably active period.
Yeah, so active period, obviously the birth and death, which is, you get the active period eventually after you've looked at a lot of specimens, but the birth and death will give you more to be able to find more quickly.
Yeah, that should actually be rather easy to add. We can do this live while we're discussing.
The countries where he collected.
Yeah.
And of course that can be narrowed down if you know itineraries and things, but I'm not quite sure how it represents an itinerary.
Maybe the taxa that he collected.
The taxa, because he could be, he could be collecting zoological and plant specimens. He could have just been doing certain families of plants or things like that. Different people had different sort of goals when they went collecting, so. And of course, you can potentially get dates around every country. So if they were in the Congo, that would have been there would have been certain trips they had. Rarely would they be there constantly, and you could have dates around those trips, so you can narrow down the collecting within the Congo, for instance. But it all gets quite.
Yeah, I could envision that we have a Wikidata item for a specific trip, for instance, and then we would see the start and end date of the trip, who were the people who were participating during which part of the trip, both in time and space. Then we could see where the collection ended up, like in which museums, and maybe even what ships were involved, who were the funders of the trip, and things like that.
Yes.
In the proposal, we have a work package that is basically dealing with this kind of stuff. Work package 2 has task 2.1, property profiles for item classes. So we could think about botanists as one such item class that we deal with, and botanical collections, things like that. And so that would be a task where we would really try to find out what use cases there are in the community, like the ones that you described, and then try to match Wikidata to that use case to the extent possible.
Yeah.
Okay, I just got a Hangout message from you in a different window.
Oh, I was just
not the one.
Found my way back to that one. That's just
okay.
I put it in there just a reminder, so we needed to find our way back to it.
Are you aware of a database that actually collects data about such trips, or even about botanists as people as collectors?
I think there's one at New York Botanic Gardens, is a big one, but I think Kew have one. But pretty much every botanic garden, to some extent, collects this information because when they.
But they don't really expose it, right?
Sorry, they don't expose it. No.
Really expose it. Yeah. And we need it exposed so that we can harvest it.
I'll have a little. Unfortunately, for some reason, I've lost the Google Hangout window, so I don't know how to mute my mic if I'm not speaking. Drives me nuts.
Just have to run around between the windows that you've opened.
Yeah, you would think. Yeah.
It's not always obvious, yeah.
All right. Anyway, is there any other questions you want to ask? I'll continue looking for collector information, but
Yeah, well, I'm still thinking about use cases. So the current idea is we won't have any task around exploring use cases, but we will write the proposal around specific use cases, which are currently available in section 5.10 specific use cases. That list is rather long, so we'll have to trim it down a little bit. And we will probably go for all the cross-disciplinary ones, because, well, the philosophy for this proposal is to kind of serve as a prototype that can then be adapted for disciplinary purposes and for regional or national funding or so. And so with this first one, we try to cover as much cross-disciplinary stuff as possible, as feasible within the limited resources that we can get through such a proposal. And we will do one or two discipline-specific use cases. One is certainly going to be chemistry. And the second one may actually be biodiversity. This depends on basically how many resources we can allocate to that task. And there we certainly have in mind collections like the ones at our museum. But botanical collections are, well, so close that much of that would also be applicable there. And that's a way for your ideas basically to come in.
just thinking another
Okay.
source of data is well, another data source. We use the Index Herbitorum, which works like a registry of herbaria, but it's not. You know, it's something. It is online, and we do use it a lot, and we look it up. But it's not very well connected to anything.
Yeah, but for instance, just having all herbaria entered into Wikidata would also be used for OD. So
it's actually a massive
an identifier to all these institutions.
It's in the past there's been so many different herbaria, including private herbaria, that there's a massive great book called the Index Herbitorum before it went online, or several books, volumes, and it's quite an enormous set of data. So containing who was collecting and details about each collection. Some of them don't exist anymore and been merged with other collections, but it's still good to know what was in the past because they might be referencing the literature.
Yeah. And referencing such things in the literature is another aspect that we're thinking about including. So basically the idea would be when you're citing your specimen or the collection that you worked with, then you cite a specific identifier. And many of those collections and specimens already have identifiers, but I still very frequently see papers where they just use text or strange abbreviations for the collections. And in those cases, Wikidata could provide an identifier.
Yeah, I mean, botanists are used to using collector and collector number, and certainly the botanists and people publishing paper in our botanic garden moan a lot when we tell them they need to put long strings in papers or identifiers. So, for instance, if they want to cite 100 herbarium specimens, they don't want to have to put a long URL in for each of these. They just want to put a collector and collector number. But I'm not sure there's any way around that. So at the moment, I think we just about persuaded them to put our herbarium barcode number in, which is 13 digits. But even that, they complain and want to shorten it somehow. So, but that's just stuff that goes out in publications. So you don't necessarily, if it's an electronic publication, you don't actually need to show the URL you're linking to, just the short part of the identifier, the unique bit, rather than the whole URL.
Yeah. I'm thinking about ref base basically here. Like if you're in the biodiversity data journal entering your text, then if you want to cite a classical reference that has a DOI, you basically just put the salient parts of the DOI in there, and it fetches all the metadata. And having something similar for collection items would be really nice, and then we can kind of format that into the author or collector and collection string that you mentioned, basically on an automated basis. But it would require some database that actually has that information from and where we could pull the information from.
Well, that's not from all the herbarium catalogues, but obviously that's a pretty enormous set of data, and it's not all catalogued yet. So that's why, to some extent, it's easier to work with things like collector databases if we can get that data, because it's big, but it's not that big. So, I mean, having said that, you might have easier access to some of the herbaria data because people like Naturalis and are making it completely open. So,
yeah. Openness is another factor. We can only import stuff into Wikidata that's CC0. And so this is another factor to be kept in mind.
Yeah, I've often wondered what use it would be to harvest from GBIF all their collector data. I mean, it would be a whole mess, but because it links back to a observational specimen, it could be clean. But yeah, anyway, just thinking randomly. So, for instance, it could be cleaned quite relatively easily using dates and things like that, because you know somebody can't live for more than, or work for more than sort of 70 years or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah, we have one task basically on data cleaning. It's called quality assurance, and it has subtasks on detecting contradictions between different data sources and kind of fixing them to the extent possible and notifying original sources and also downstream databases like DBpedia.
Yeah, so well, have to be CC0. That's quite a restriction, actually.
Yeah. But the thing is, it's actually not entirely clear to what extent that is a restriction for plain data, like because data doesn't fall under copyright, and so
I don't know. It might be worth exploring Europeana. So.
Oh yeah, Europeana is fully within scope, and we plan to harvest from Europeana.
Yeah, because the images are quite restricted Creative Commons licenses, but the metadata you probably could get away with.
It is CC0, yeah.
And I know so with the that project Open Up, we put quite extensive metadata along with the images of our herbarium specimens. But our scientists
So did we, yeah.
Yeah, but our scientists refused us to put any longitude and latitudes in there. But yeah, it's sad, but there you go. But all the collector data is in there for each specimen and dates, I think. Now I don't know for your museum or for other museums what data they put in and what they didn't put in. But except for the geographic data, there's a lot of data in there on collectors and dates of those collectors and the links to the images of their specimens. So it could be potentially useful stuff.
Okay, well, we have the European Library as a partner in the project, and they obviously collaborate a lot with Europeana. They're basically an offspring. And so the focus would be initially to bring in all the metadata of publications into Wikidata in some useful manner. This will have a side effect of bringing in information about authors. And in that context, we can maybe drill a little deeper into Europeana as to what other information we have about those authors, which would then bring about those collection events.
But that's authors of books or authors of specimens as well?
Publications, that's how we frame it at the moment. So in recent years, this will be mainly journal articles, but for legacy literature, it will be mainly books. We're not sure about things like PhD theses and conference proceedings and stuff like that. So these may be edge cases for the beginning, but we will certainly do everything that has a DOI and or an ISBN, and then use that as a seed to set up workflows that could then be expanded to other stuff.
Right.
That's quite a massive undertaking already, but it is good for our project in the sense that it is more or less discipline agnostic. Of course, there is some bias as to who uses Crossref DOIs and who uses ISBNs in terms of disciplines, but basically all fields have both. And so if we have that infrastructure that's useful to everyone, and then we can try to go for those follow-up projects that have a more disciplinary or more national or whatever different focus that could then drill deeper and, for instance, bring all the PhD theses in Belgium on board, something like that.
Yeah, I'm not really, except for what went in Open Up, I'm not really clear on what went into Europeana or what is in there. I wasn't aware of that much other literature. I actually happened to be looking at it yesterday on literature because I was trying to find out whatever happened to BHL Europe. But the literature in Europeana is not very accessible.
Yeah, that's why they have this European library that has metadata about publications in RDF, which you might argue is not very accessible either.
I probably would argue
but,
that.
At least
European library is different to Europeana.
The European library, yeah. But it's accessible for machines, and that's what we're interested in here for Wikidata.
And on that basis, we can expose it in a format that is actually useful for humans again. And yeah, some round tripping of such kind of information is certainly within the scope of the project.
Okay, so it's really just what's been published. It's not the actual document itself. I see.
It's not collection events unless they have been documented in the formal literature. Are you aware of any paper that would describe basically the level of detail that you would need about a collector or collecting events in order for this information to be useful for the use case that you have in mind?
No, not really.
Or could you provide a paragraph on that?
Sure. I mean, it's basically sort of the more detail you have, the better. But what to make it
Yeah, what I
useful.
have in mind is actually something that is technically feasible on well, with the data that has been recorded, that is available from some databases. Never mind machine readability for the moment, just some databases. So if we didn't record what they had for lunch while they were there, then this is not going to be included.
Yeah, but so as time goes on, you catalogue more herbarium specimens, you will get to know a collector's itinerary much better, and so you can build on the itinerary as you go along. But when you haven't got anything catalogued, you just know when he was born and when he died, you can still use that information to validate what as you're working on it. It's kind of circular, but bit by bit, you'll piece together that person's collecting life, and by the end of it, you'll have its full itinerary effectively as you catalogue specimens. But in a database of collectors, you really just want to keep track of where he was on any particular day or year, maybe.
Yeah. The idea is that Wikidata would provide you with such lists on an automated basis once the data is available in any form.
Yeah.
So you might have entered it by collector or by collection or by trip or even by taxa. It doesn't really matter if all the details in there. Wikidata can then serve you the list in any of those shapes.
Yeah. So there must be already lots of Wikidata sort of biographical data on people, much more in depth than most collectors, aren't they?
Yes, and there are also some showcase items. Let me try to find one. I think, for instance, Bach, Johann Sebastian Bach should have a very good. Einstein also should have a very good page. Yeah, so Bach is Q1339. I'll paste that in the Google chat. And Einstein, let's see what that is.
I looked up Marilyn Monroe first, because tells you something about me, probably. Who has Sebastian Bach?
Yeah, so Einstein is Q937. And both of these have lots of statements already. Location of burial, manner of death, medical condition, mother, father, child, brother, relative, spouse, image, signature, external data available, add, open library identifier, discography, GND identifier.
How does this exactly work? So it's, for instance, got educated at, but it doesn't give you any dates between where they were. So
Not yet.
But there could be dates between.
Yeah, if you have dates, you can enter them right away. That's a qualifier. Educated at, you can add a qualifier that would be start date, end date, and then you just enter that data. And ideally a source for that information.
Oh yes, I see there's country and citizenship, which has got start time and end time. Yes.
Yeah. Or medical condition for Bach is also blindness, point in time 1750.
Right.
With a reference. So that's the level of detail that is possible already at the moment, but there's ongoing development in multiple directions that shall make this kind of information more useful for the use cases that you've outlined. Actually here, educated at, for Bach, they have it at St. Michael's School, end time April 1702. And they have employer relationships, start time, end time.
So how is this used at the moment? It's just within Wikipedia?
Yeah, but also DBpedia is already harvesting part of that information because they are harvesting directly from Wikipedia and try to turn that into a structured format. But since part of the information in Wikipedia is now available through Wikidata in a structured form, DBpedia is harvesting that, and since DBpedia is the largest blob in the linked open data cloud, it is being served to many. They even have the date of birth in 2 different calendars, like the Julian and Gregorian calendars. Yeah, it's all sorts of information that are already in there, and lots of identifiers for catalogs that I have no idea what they are about. But yeah, it's quite some detail, and if that level of detail is available about any botanist who has collected specimens, we can model that on our data. You've listed your botanical garden as a potential associate partner, and this would be the kind of thing that would be that you could bring into the project. And so, basically, in your letter, you would say, if you're interested in profiling collection events and collectors and things like that, and would advise the project on activities around that.
Sure, absolutely.
And then that would be nice. And we at the museum, we will be engaged in similar stuff. We do not put the biodiversity activities in the foreground here, so we also look at our mineral collections, our meteorite collections, and things like that, because we really want this to be overarching, useful for many. But yeah, having the perspective of someone else from the biodiversity field who has a slightly different angle by looking at botanical collections rather than the zoological collections that we predominantly have, that is very useful.
Okay.
I plan to write a blog post by the end of the week with more instructions as to what we would need from those associate partners. But I think if you could phrase out your ideas around those collectors and collection events in like half a page or something like that, that would be a good core for that letter of support. And we could probably use that in the proposal in some fashion as well.
Sure, I'll try and do that tomorrow because a little bit of free time at the moment. So strike while the iron is hot, as they say.
Yeah. Okay. So I think the main issues I wanted to discuss tonight, we have all discussed them a little bit. So I would like to come back to Paolo, whether he wants to say anything or comment on what we've discussed.
I'm okay. I was just listening. This is the first time I participate. I missed the second one, so I'm just trying to get a hold of. I sent a message on the chat. If you can, I don't know if you have a draft proposal already, or if you need help.
Oh yeah, we do.
We need the link, or I think I missed maybe on the second one, the second Hangout. I missed the link.
I think I've plastered the link all over the internet, but.
Okay. No, you probably use more Google Plus, right? So.
No, but right now we have two main documents. One is a wiki page on Wikidata. I'll paste that into the Google chat. It's actually the first link I posted at 10:05 p.m. I think. I'm not sure. Oh yeah, it was right before you joined, so I'll paste it in again.
Oh, okay.
And there we have a section called EU Forms, because we have to submit the proposal in a form into EU policies and so on, so we have to use their templates. These are copyrighted, so we cannot upload them to Wikidata or edit them, and so we are actually drafting the real proposal in Google Docs, which are linked from that specific section here, submission forms. I'll paste in the link as well. So here, do you see that?
I see the. Okay.
I just pasted in the link. We have that specific section on the wiki that points to the folder on Google Docs, which then has subfolders on the work packages and on the partners, and has the two main draft documents that are modeled after what the Commission wants.
Okay. Yeah, I missed the second Hangout though. I had problems with the sound at the time, and the first one was 2 a.m. on my time here, so it was a little bit difficult to get.
Yeah. Where are you based right now?
I'm in Edmonton, Alberta, so the west.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll
and
revise.
What's your institution?
I'm University of Alberta now.
You're going to the ocean.
Okay. Well,
yeah.
We would be happy to have you as an associate partner as well. If you see a point how the project could be beneficial to you in some fashion, that would be nice if you could provide a letter of support, or if you could edit the proposal in those areas or comment on those areas that are interesting to you. That would be helpful as well.
Yeah, I'll revise the documents. I have some time now with the holidays, and then I'll see if I can help a little bit at least. So.
We also have a mailing list, which is mentioned on the same wiki page, just in another section. So and the discussions around the proposal, they will be on the mailing list.
very
Okay, that's fine. Sorry for not participating much. As I said, I'm working from home. My son is here, so
Yes, say hello to him.
it's a little busy and noisy with him around.
I fully understand that. I'm in the same situation.
Hi, Carter. Hi.
So, yeah. Thanks for joining today. Yeah, hi. You can't see me, but we can hear you.
Yeah.
Does he understand English?
Oh yeah, he speaks English mostly. Yeah.
Okay.
Hi.
For my kids, it's always funny if they hear me just talk English because that's such a strange language to them.
Hi.
I'm Brazilian, but
Hi.
he was born in Canada, so he speaks English mostly. So. Oh.
Yeah.
Jonah.
Yeah. So thanks for joining.
Okay. Thanks a lot. I'll keep in touch. I'll read the documents again and then take a look and see if I can help a little bit here and there.
Cool. Thank you. Quentin, anything else?
No, not for me, but I'll get that stuff about collectors to you.
Okay. Cool.
And if
Thank
you
you.
want anything else, don't just email. I'm working from home all this week. We don't go back to the Botanic Garden until the 5th of January or something. So.
Okay.
I wouldn't say I'm doing other work, but perhaps I've got a bit more time than usual.
That's good to know. I'll probably ping you on some things in between.
Sure.
Thanks. Okay, so have a nice day, nice week. Good jump into next year.
Yes, and you. Okay, bye now.
Yeah, Happy New
Thanks
Year.
a lot. Cheers.
Bye bye.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.